Leonardo and the Flying Boy by Lawrence Anholt. There were no spaceships or airplanes when Zorro was a boy. The sky belonged to the birds. But one man dreamed of something incredible. One day, Zorro, he told his pupil, people will sail through the clouds and look down on the world below. Anything is possible. The man with the amazing dream and a beard like a wizard was Leonardo da Vinci. Anything seemed possible in Leonardo's busy studio. He was a painter, a sculptor, a musician, and a scientist. Sometimes he showed Zorro his beautiful notebooks where 1,000 ideas spilled from every page. "We must try to understand everything," said the great genius. "How does life begin? How does a plant grow? How did the plants move? And how could a person fly like a bird?" But when Zorro tried to read the books, he found them written back to front. There was a place where Zorro could never go. One mysterious workshop where the door was always locked. No one was allowed in there except Leonardo himself. Zorro longed to know what was inside. Maybe it's a fantastic sculpture, he thought, or a huge war machine. In the studio, everyone had to work hard. Zorro mixed colors, cleaned brushes, and practiced his drawing. "When I am grown up, I will have my own studio," he said, "and a secret workshop, too." "Of course you will, Zorro," smiled Leonardo. Leonardo was a kind man. If ever he found an animal that was sick or hungry, he would bring it home for his pupils to take care of. And one day, Leonardo found something very strange. He dragged the wild and noisy creature into the studio, where it kicked and fought and spat at the great artist. "What is it?" asked Zorro. "It's a boy," laughed Leonardo. "A very wild boy. He's never been to school, and his mother is too poor to take care of him. She begged me to give him some work before he ends up in prison." The wild boy grabbed Leonardo's hand and bit very hard. Leonardo pretended to be angry, but Zorro could see that he was laughing. "I'll call you Salai," said Leonardo. "It means little devil, and that's exactly what you are." So Salai came to stay in the studio, and although he was a bad boy, everyone grew to like him. "But you can't wear those rags," said Leonardo. "I'm going to buy you a real velvet suit, some shoes. Now, where did I leave my money?" They searched high and low until at last Zorro found the money hidden in Salai's filthy coat. Zorro couldn't believe it. Who would dare steal from Leonardo da Vinci? Day after day, Leonardo dreamed up inventions of every kind. Zorro was amazed to see a parachute, the very first bicycle, a deadly war machine, a gadget for walking on water, life preserver, a diving suit. Once he built a machine for cutting and polishing glass and made himself a pair of spectacles. "Now I can keep an eye on Salai," he said, winking at Zorro. Early one morning, Leonardo took Zorro into a town to look for interesting faces to draw. When he noticed someone especially beautiful or unusually ugly, Leonardo would follow them, making dozens of sketches. They came to the market where a lady was selling birds in tiny cages. Leonardo looked at the birds. Then, to Zorro's surprise, he bought them all. But instead of taking the birds home as pets, Leonardo told Zorro to open the cages. Everybody stared, and no one could understand. "A bird should be free," said Leonardo. "Look, Zorro, can you see how their wings push against the air? It gives me an idea." Leonardo began to run, and as soon as he got home, he He locked himself into a secret workshop again, and Zorro could hear hammering and sawing from inside. Hour after hour, Zorro waited, but Leonardo wouldn't stop for food or drink. What on earth was he building? It must be something incredible, thought Zorro, something no one has ever dreamed of. And at last he fell asleep on the steps outside. Leonardo began a wonderful painting of a woman called Mona Lisa. She had to sit for weeks without moving, so Leonardo paid acrobats and musicians to keep her from getting bored. Zorro stared at the dreamy green mountains and the twisting rivers. Surely no one has painted anything so perfect, he thought. The face in the painting was smiling, a mysterious, gentle smile. It's as if she knows some secret, thought Zorro, as if she has seen inside that locked room. Suddenly, Salai crept behind him. "Come with me, Zorro," he hissed. "I'll show you something more interesting than that picture." Salai looked very suspicious. He dragged Zorro out of the studio and quietly down the stairs. At the door of the secret workshop, Salai pulled out a big bunch of keys. "You stole them!" gasped Zorro. "Leonardo will throw you back on the street." Salai only laughed and unlocked the door. Zorro knew he shouldn't be there. He should turn and run to Leonardo, but he just had to see inside the secret room. Zorro couldn't believe his eyes. An extraordinary machine filled the room, its wings like great eagles. "Help me pull it outside," ordered Salai. "If we wait until Leonardo is ready, we will never fly. Anyway, you are the only one small enough to fit in the machine. It was made for you. You will be the flying boy." "Leonardo will be furious," whispered Zorro. "Not when he sees you flying above the studio," shouted Salai. "Come on, Zorro, help me." So as Leonardo worked upstairs, Salai and Zorro hauled and dragged the heavy machine out of the workshop, along the streets, far into the fields. Salai pointed to the highest hill. "We will try the machine from there," he said. And as the sun set, they reached the top. "Now," panted Salai, "just lie in here. When you pedal, the wings will flap." Zorro was shaking. He felt ill. "Maybe the machine isn't finished," he cried. We should be patient." But Salai was already strapping Zorro into the machine, dragging it toward the edge of the hill. Zorro was terrified. He began to shout. Suddenly, there was a gust of wind. Salai pushed the flying machine, left the ground. Zorro looked down at the world below. He was sobbing with fear, but for a few seconds he flew like a bird. It works! It works!" shouted the wild boy far below. But something was wrong. The bird was too heavy. Zorro pedaled and pulled, but the machine began to fall, and at that moment Leonardo came running across the fields. Zorro tugged on the ropes and screamed, and as the machine felt like a stone, it crashed into a tree. Leonardo himself pulled Zorro's limp body from the wrecked machine and carefully carried him home. Salai followed slowly, his head hanging in shame. Zorro was lying in bed. His leg hurt. His head was wrapped in bandages. "Oh, Zorro," said Leonardo sadly, "it doesn't surprise me that Salai would disobey me, but you... Perhaps I was wrong. Perhaps people will never fly. We are not birds. From now on, I will stick to painting." "No," said Zorro quietly. "Remember what you told me? One day people will fly. The machine was too heavy, that's all." Leonardo thought for a moment, and then he jumped up. "Yes," he shouted, "and the wings should be longer, like this." And he threw open his notebook and began to work, slowly and patiently, until a beautiful drawing appeared, a new flying machine more amazing than ever. And while he worked, Leonardo began to smile, a mysterious, gentle smile, as if he could see far into the future, where boys and girls, just like Zorro, would sail through the clouds. And anything is possible. Leonardo da Vinci was born in 1452, the son of a rich lawyer and a poor peasant woman. This great genius of the Italian Renaissance left few paintings, but his many notebooks give insight into a man who, according to the painter and biographer Vasari, was marvelously endowed by heaven with beauty, grace, and talent in such an abundance that he leaves other men far behind. Vasari also notes that the gentle vegetarian was strong enough to bend a horseshoe with his bare hands. Leonardo conceived the breathtaking plan of making pictorial record of every object in the world. He was a supremely talented painter, architect, musician, military engineer, mathematician, a botanist, astronomer, and above all, inventor. Many of his devices were doomed to failure because of the limits of contemporary materials. But his designs for tanks, submarines, parachutes, hoists, pulleys, levers were uncannily ahead of the time. He became favorite at the courts of Milan and France. Leonardo's obsession with flight lasted throughout his life. It is unlikely that his contraptions stayed airborne for long, but he certainly made several attempts, and Zorro's leap from the Mount Cesaro became legendary. Zorro, Zoraste de Peratolo, was one of Leonardo's many apprentice pupils, as was Salai Giacomo, who was taken in by Leonardo at 10 years. Leonardo recorded Salai's many thefts and delinquent acts, and at one point wrote the words, "Thief, liar, obstinate glutton," in the margin of his notebook, in which Salai later scribbled obscene drawings. The untalented and mischievous boy stayed with Leonardo until the master's death in 1519, and Leonardo even left him substantial property. Salai met a predictably reckless end when he was killed by a crossbow. Zorro's history is not well documented, but he undoubtedly became a highly talented artist who contributed to his master's great paintings, where their brush marks are now inseparable. Leonardo and the Flying Boy.